You can't get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. That's a quote from Jane Goodall, and very appropriate today. I first connected with my guest on LinkedIn, and after following her posts and attending a couple of workshops and learning about her business Authentic Selling, I invited her to speak at Lunch and Learn. But today I'm curious about the other roles that she plays and the contribution and the difference she makes. What I know to be true is that by investing time in conversations, we can learn so much about ourselves and others and be prompted to consider what matters to us and what actions we want to take. So let me connect you with Nimity Zabit. Hello, Nimity.
Hi, Kerryn. Thank you. Yeah.
Good to have you here. Nimity is the founder of Authentic Selling and also the founder of All Good Things. She's also the chair of Fair Trade Association ANZ. Nimity, tell me a little bit about Fair Trade Association.
Yes, I guess Fair Trade Association it's a community of businesses actually that are involved in and support the fair trade movement. And I think a lot of people learn about fair trade because they see fair trade tea or coffee at the supermarket shelves, or chocolate, or those sort of commodity products. But fair trade movement is actually a much broader movement than that. And I came across fair trade many years ago now, back in sort of the mid 2000s. I'd been traveling overseas quite a bit with my work. And I was, in doing that, I'd done a lot of traveling and seen a lot of things. A lot of those things are amazing and beautiful, but also when you travel a lot, like many of us, you're confronted with a lot of poverty and also often a lot of ecological damage, and you're sort of confronted with some of the big challenges facing our world. And so I came home from living overseas actually and back to Australia, and I was really looking to connect with a group of people that were doing something. I wanted to do something about this. So what can I do and actually have action that's going to have impact? And so I connected with the fair trade community back then, and it's a lovely community of people that are all about using trade to solve some of these big problems, and primarily focusing on the challenge of poverty, and extreme poverty being one of the biggest challenges that we face globally. And yeah, so the Fair Trade Association of Australia and New Zealand is the peak body for that movement here in Australia. And it's based on 10 principles of fair trade, which the global body is the World Fair Trade Organization. And so the whole idea is that the businesses within this association, we're working together to implement these 10 principles in our businesses to change the way that we all do business so that we can have a positive impact to alleviate poverty.
Yeah. So we're going to get on talking about all of the good things, but also Authentic Selling is your other business and is about no nonsense or business to business selling, and the focus on helping purpose founders achieve their vision. So Authentic Selling, did that come before All the Good Things? Which order did they grow in?
All of the good things came first. So I was working in the corporate world, in the corporate space, and I was volunteering in the Fair Trade Association and working with the fair trade movement, doing my bit on the side. And I really was, it's become more and more of a passion for me the more I've become involved in fair trade, and the more I can see the direct impact that you can have with fair trade, operating in a fair trade way. So mid-COVID, like a lot of people, I had this sort of epiphany moment, and I was part of the Great Resignation, and I left my corporate job and I started All of the Good Things, which was all about, it's an e-commerce business selling fair trade and eco-friendly goods. And when I did that, I joined a social enterprise co-working space called Seed Spaces, and I became involved with a lot of people that were on this similar journey to do business for good, which was really inspiring and encouraging. And what I found was, when I was chatting with them about their journeys and what they were trying to do, a lot of them were trying to sell to businesses. They had a passion about a product or a solution, and they were trying to sell to other businesses. And I realized, I actually know how to do this, because this is what I learned in my corporate world. So I found myself giving a lot of advice and sort of running a few information sessions, just helping people out. And from that, I realized actually there's a bit more I can do here to help. And evolved into Authentic Selling, which is a business in its own right now.
Right. It's fascinating how the way we evolve, and the pillars for my podcast are contribution, connection, contribution, and community. And in my business, Your Time Matters, we're talking a lot about that at the moment. And in fact, at the moment, we're focusing on contribution and community, and they're so intertwined. It's quite fascinating, because I used to have the word convert in there instead of contribution, and I thought, no, it's not converting for me, it's contributing and trying to make a difference. So it's really great to have you here to talk about it. So I wanted to concentrate on all the good things because of the contribution and the desire to help the broader community in being more aware and more purposeful. So you mentioned that you've been traveling, so no doubt that was one of your drivers. What other things prompted you to start that business?
Well, I think it's really, so I was working, as I said, in the corporate world, in the enterprise software. I was sort of working internationally, and I guess it was sort of a passion to use my powers for good, if you like. And I thought, I have these business skills, how can I use them in a positive way? And I was already, as I said, involved in the fair trade community from a volunteer perspective, and I had dipped my toe in a little bit of a business in the past. But more and more, I just felt like my day job wasn't aligning with my passions and what I was doing in the rest of my time. And so that was a big driver to make the change. But I'm really, one of the wonderful things about working in the fair trade space is realizing that you can actually have an impact. Even micro businesses can have quite a significant impact on the people that they buy from. So the whole fair trade model is really based around that, firstly providing market for disadvantaged producers. So the idea that, if you're somebody, so these beads that I'm wearing, for example, are from, I don't sell these ones, but they're another fair trade business, and they're made from paper that's rolled, paper beads, and in Uganda by a micro business there. Now, those women that make these beautiful jewelry, if they were just in Uganda on their own and had no connection to us here in Australia or to another business in the sort of more wealthy part of the world, they have no access to market to make any money from that, apart from, the odd thing they might sell locally. And so it's that access to market that's really one of the powerful things about fair trade, and that's one of the founding principles. So then with that, it's also about, okay, so now we've provided access to market, but how do we ensure that people are getting paid fairly, that they've got good working conditions, that there's gender equity, that there's respect for the environment, that there's no discrimination, and all of these other key principles, no slavery, no child labour. So fair trade sort of looks at all of those things holistically. And being involved in that business, I realized this is something that can really have an impact. And simply by starting my own business and getting involved and doing it myself, I'm very much someone that I think there's a lot of, one of my pet peeves actually are people that are always sort of out there telling other people to do things in a better way. I'm much more about, okay, I want to actually do the doing and be involved in the doing. And I think that was kind of the shift from being a volunteer and being involved to like, no, I want to run my own business doing this stuff that's having this direct impact.
Yes. Yeah, it's fantastic. So how do you source your products?
Yes, so I source my products all primarily from fair traders of Australia who are endorsed businesses in Australia sourcing from fair trade producers. So my business is a retail business. I'm not currently importing from overseas, although that's something that I would like to do in the future. And the people that I buy from here in Australia are wholesaling, and they're sourcing from businesses in other countries that are endorsed as working within fair trade practices. So that means I know that they're working within these 10 principles, and it also gives me access to some beautiful, interesting and different products. So I do sell the tea and coffee and some drinking chocolate and things like that, but I've also got some beautiful hand painted mugs, for example, that are artisan made, and I have some gorgeous kitchen brushes and body brushes that are all plant-based, that are made by a fair trade group in Sri Lanka. So there's a whole range of beautiful things out there, and it's also one of the things I love about being in this sort of part of the fair trade movement that includes the artisan products, is that you get to see these beautiful, interesting products that you may not otherwise have access to. So,
and apart from helping from the financial and economic side, I used to be involved in creating craft and art form and everything, and it's so wonderful to be able to create and pass it on, because you like to make these things, but you need to be able to distribute them. So that's another, it's so good for your confidence and whatever. So I'm sure the people that are actually producing, not only to create livelihood, but are delighted to share their the things they love.
There's the creativity in the design, and many of the way that the fair trade sort of collaborations work, or the businesses work, is that the people in Australia, or some of the other buying countries, as we tend to call them, are they might provide input to the design. So it's not, that's very common actually, to see what would work in terms of what we here in Australia would like to buy, what fits in the market. And so there's a lot of collaboration and sort of capacity building as well that goes in.
So what have been some of the challenges that you've had in setting up your business?
Oh gosh, there's always so many, right, when you get started. So I think like most founders, you start with this amazing enthusiasm and you sort of, it's all going to be fantastic. So I mean, my core sort of, I guess, philosophy with starting all of the good things was about trying to make it easy for people to make choices that are positive. So positive for the people that are making the goods, buying the goods, using the goods, and also positive for the environment from an environmental perspective. And I guess, and my initial idea was actually to have some subscription-based products that people would give a gift pack that came with a subscription, so that would help people to build habits. I guess one of the challenges I found was that sort of hasn't worked quite as I initially thought it would. Most of my purchases have just been straight one-off purchases, not the subscription. So that, and also just the amount of competition that's out there, I really underestimated the level of competition in the space. So that's been quite challenging. And so I think from my perspective, I'm learning how to differentiate myself and position myself in that, just more generally in the e-commerce space.
Yes.
And I think as well, because I launched like a lot of people mid-COVID, things were all very, upside down and skewed. And so there was sort of this massive peak in online and then a massive dip in online and retail post-COVID. Sort of went really sharp changes. So it's really trying to understand, when I was out there testing things, it wasn't testing things in a normal world time. So it just didn't sort of give me real feedback. So it's really only just now that things are starting to
level out,
and I can really see what's working and what's not. So lots of challenges, but lots of learnings, and
we're constantly. I was just writing a blog really about that, because my business is 9 years old, and I was just saying how you just constantly are evolving. And even today, someone was talking to me about a part of my business and saying this could be better. And it's like, well, it probably was better the way I was doing it 9 years ago, and you try to improve something and make it better. And sometimes you sort of end up back where you were in the beginning. So I think that's just part of being in business, I think. So what is the impact that you really want to make? Can you say it in a sentence?
I'd say probably not in a sentence, but what I can say is that what I really like, the impact for me is about the impact on the individual. Yeah. So when I sell a brush, like a kitchen brush that's vegan and made shrink, I know that is directly positively impacting the people that made that, the individuals that made that. I've met the women that made this necklace in Uganda when I visited them. So that for me is the sort of impact that I'm interested in. I think that's because it's that tangible piece of impact. And for me, that's all these bigger impacts that we talk about, that's what it's built on. So for me, I think really thinking about it in that way is what's important to me, knowing that each thing that I'm doing and each thing that I'm selling is actually having an impact that specific thing. That's what it's about for me.
Yeah, that's fab. I like that a lot, because I like to think also about making a difference by people experiencing growth and fulfillment. So understanding that, little things can make a big difference to somebody else, and for us to be thinking beyond ourselves. So it's not about me having this thing, it's about I like this thing, but I can also help somebody else by doing that thing. So, and
it's so much more rewarding, right, on so many levels. So I think, I also get a huge enjoyment when someone buys something from my store and they come back to me and say, oh, I really loved this product. It feels so great, because I know that, it's having that positive impact on all those different levels, which is just, it feels so good.
Yeah, that's fabulous. I can relate. I can relate to that feeling, because as I say on my website, it's good to drive business, but that growth and fulfillment is what keeps us going, I think. So
it is really, yeah. For sure.
If someone was thinking about moving into to building a purpose-driven business, what are 3 tips that you could share with them?
Yes, well, the first one would definitely be to connect with a community, like-minded people, because that has been absolutely the biggest support and driver for me to get started and to keep going. So that's the first and foremost. I think the second thing would be to learn as much as you can. So, we were just saying you have to keep learning. So I think that that would be the other thing. Go into it knowing that you need to be learning as much as you can every step of the way, and continue to keep learning. And I think the third one would be probably to make sure that you manage your own energy. I think the level of personal energy that you have is going to determine, in a lot of ways, how successful you can be. So if you burn yourself out by going too crazy too early, then the business will burn out as well, right? So I don't think there's any prizes for hitting that overwhelm stage. So take care and think about that up front. Think about how you're going to make time to manage and take care of yourself physically and emotionally, and that's really important.
In my book, in the chapter that's called Vision and Courage, I spoke with a founder of a social enterprise, and he describes it as a marathon, and you don't have to win the race on the first time. That can take some time to get the distance, and I think that's exactly what you're saying, and I was reminded of his words as you were speaking. Yeah. So it's great to talk to you, and I'm sure we can go on and on, because there's such a lot I don't know, and I am always so curious to know more. But I like to do these in sort of short segments, and want people to want to come back and listen to more. So I often ask people a mystery question, and the question I have for you is, in 60 seconds, what could you teach me?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I could teach you how to tie a head of your lip and do that. Does that work?
Yeah. It's a hard question, and yeah. I've never had it dealt to me. But we ran a workshop the other day, and that was one of the cards that came out, and the player thought for a few minutes, and then he said, I can teach you to be hopeful.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, it was really, he said, I can tell you that there's always a way forward, and we can always, if we just keep hugging it. It was really beautiful. It was really beautiful, because I think I'd be saying something like, juggle a ball or something, but I thought it was very nice.
I think it's, I don't think I have any wisdom to impart, Kerryn, I'm afraid.
I think that's not true, but anyway. So how could people help the Fair Trade Association and all good things grow?
Well, like any business, we love people to come and look at our business and to buy some of our beautiful things, and that does directly positively help the people that made those things, and it helps to the environment as well, because they're all great for the environment. So that's the easy thing, I guess. In terms of the Fair Trade Association, we'd love you to come along to one of our events or to join us as a friend. You can join as a friend for just $35 a year, which is means you support the movement, and then you get discounts on all our further events, and you get to come to the members and friends events and connect with a great bunch of people. So I'd say come and connect up with us and learn more is what I'd love for more people to be involved.
And you're based in Sydney. Do they operate in other capital cities as well?
Yeah, we're national, so we do a lot of our things virtually so that we can access people nationally, and then in each state there'll be various events and things happening from time to time. Coming up to Christmas, for example, some of the network groups will have Christmas markets and things in local areas, and we've also got an event on the 3rd of November where we're actually talking with SECNA, which is the Social Enterprise Council, and social traders who are social enterprise, and B Corp, and we're coming together to talk about all the different movements and how they are different and work together. So that's an example of something that you can come along and connect with.
And I had a look at your website the other day, and you have some really lovely things on there. So as people are starting to think about this time of the year, definitely have a look at allthegoodthings.com.au.
.com.au, all of the good things.com.au. Yes.
Yeah, and I think you're on Instagram as well.
I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. So yes, you can find us there. Yeah.
Wonderful. And to close, do you have a quote for me?
I do. I have a quote from Elizabeth Strout, which is really simple. It says, inside every person is a universe. And I just love that thought. Yeah.
Yeah, we can reach so far, and there is so much more to unfold and uncover. So thank you very much, Nimati, for talking with me today. And I hope that I've helped to amplify the work that you're doing and make a tiny little difference to someone along the way. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been great fun chatting. Thanks.